And here we are live. We are live right here, right now on Longbox Punk. That's me. I'm Chris. I'm the punk. I am joined on this live stream episode all around the world. I've got Amal Desai here, and we've got Paul coming in from Australia. In the future, it's tomorrow for him today. Gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with me and joining. I'm glad that we could coordinate schedules and get this set up. I'm stoked to talk to both of you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So, all right. So before we get into Jane Jett, book 1, which we're definitely going to get into because I have so many things I want to talk to you about with that book. I first would love to hear how, like, the origin story for both of you. We'll go alphabetically. So Amal, I'm going to pick on you first. Tell me, like, how did you get into comics? How did you start creating comics? Like, where did this all come from for you?
Yeah, so I actually started reading comics really late. I was 25 when I started reading comics, and then I got very, very obsessed. And I happened to be working in the print industry and in design. So, of course, I wanted to work anything related to comics if I could. And then eventually I picked up Nate Picos's book, Essential Guide to Comic Book Lettering, taught myself how to letter, started finding work. Then more and more work. and then I've always wanted to write, of course, too. So sort of venturing into that now a bit more.
So it literally just started with the, like, I love comics, I want to do comics, let's just start making comics.
Oh yeah, I was literally trying to find a job working for Mixum just because they print comics. I used to work at a FedEx, and I'd get excited when like the boxes would come in that were just from like the oh crap, what's that company? The company that makes the poly bags or whatever. And that's not even what was in there anymore. Just be like, we're holding something that will one day hold comics. so yeah, it was a bit of an obsession. So I'm glad to be a lot more in it now.
That's awesome. And we're definitely going to get to lettering because that's one of my notes. But before we get there, Paul, same question. How did you end up in comics? And then how did you end up in Australia?
Oh, well, let's see. I don't know. I started drawing very young, Ninja Turtles from the cartoon a lot. That's what got me into the whole, I guess, genre. And then the X-Men. Started collecting X-Men back in the day. It's probably around the Jim Lee #1 cover era. The whole Image boom. I was into comics then. I've got lots of those books. And then I was always kind of drawing and just like drawing the characters. I wasn't ever really thinking, oh, this is, something I want to do when I get older or anything like that. But went to art school for about a year in just outside Washington, D.C. And then the student loans ran out and I wasn't able to keep going. So then I joined the military a little bit after that. Was in there for 8 years, and then I ended up in Australia. I married a girl from here. We've got a couple gorgeous kids. We're divorced now, but I'm still here, got my kids.
Yeah.
Just dropped them off at school about a half an hour ago. But no, it's good. Now I'm getting back into drawing over the last 4 years. Totally coincidental with the whole pandemic, but it was just nice. I decided to pick up a sketchbook again and just drawing as much as possible. Found a bunch of YouTube videos, found David Finch on YouTube, and just went from there and started actually trying to get better at drawing and learning the craft of making comics. Yeah.
That's awesome. See, are you a traditional artist or do you do digital as well?
Yeah, I like doing. I did start trying some digital stuff when I was just getting back into it, but man, that's hard. I much prefer traditional pencil on paper or pen on paper or even painting now. I'm starting to get better at that.
Cool.
Yeah. No, I like having the physical stuff. When I first started getting into digital, I was using one of those pads, the styluses.
Yeah.
We got to look at the screen and draw. And it was just, I just couldn't coordinate it. I did a couple, like my first couple little comics for practice. They were like part of an anthology. And yeah, those were done on that. And I was like, and then I switched over to the iPad, and you can actually see the drawing. I was much better, much better. Then I was like, I still want to be able to, feel the paper and do all that.
Yeah.
Just all traditional pencils. Yeah.
With AI coming, I think that's the best route too. With the AI coming that way, we need to go back the other way. I'm trying to figure out how to letter on paper too.
Oh, cool.
Just to,
Oh, really?
set ourselves apart a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be sick. Yeah.
So if you're doing like pen and paper and ink drawings, how are you like scanning and sending those to Amal, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, the first batch, I think I just took photos with my phone and sent them. I didn't have a scanner.
They were crisp
and
photos,
then I got a
though.
scanner, which wasn't that great. Now I've got a really nice scanner, so future ones will be really nice. But the problem is it's not like an A3 scanner, so it's not a big scanner. I'll have to do half and half and then stitch them together in Photoshop and then send them. But it'll be fine. But it'll be Mick-O, as they say here in Australia.
Yeah, I feel similar. I had a friend in college that used to use the like drawing tablets on her desk, and then she would be looking at the monitor as she was drawing down here. And I'm like, how do you put your brain in both? I can't. I have to see it. So I definitely.
It's like playing a video game. It's like learning to play video games all over with a new controller or something like that. That you know where the buttons are and all that stuff.
Right.
It's difficult. Yeah.
So how did Jane Jett come to be? Was that like so? How so many, just all the hows?
Yeah. So we're both part of the same Facebook groups. I'm sure multiple, and there's one for drawing comics, and Paul's posting a bunch of incredible drawings, and also not looking for work, which I thought was crazy, and not working for Marvel or DC or anything. So I approached him originally and was like, I'm a writer, letterer. I was playing at inking and coloring it too. Bad idea. And I was like, so, if I do those, would you be willing to do drawing? And then we took it from there. So I think it was Paul's idea to do a public domain character to start there, just to save a little bit of design time, just because it's a big ask. Even though in the end everything is pretty much designed from scratch.
Yeah, not a particular domain character either. It was just like, let's just start from one of them and do a twist on it or something. I think I was initially playing with like Sherlock Holmes and zombies or something like that, or something silly.
Yeah, I started with I was planning. I had thought up a whole thing.
Question. I think you said
with the question and Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, but it turns out the question is not really public domain. It's tricky. It's like a confusing half public domain sort of thing. So, then I found Rocket Man and Rocket Girl. I changed Rocket Girl to Jane Jett just because Rocket Girl with Rocket Man is strange. And then and Jane Jett just sounds better to me. And then I came up with the 6 or 7 page pitch, which was also a short story. So it would work. The first 7 pages work as a short story or as the intro. So we would put it out there, and if it didn't get picked up, we'd at least have a short. And then we found Juliana LaMalfa, the colorist, and she's incredible. Once I realized that it was not going to be doable, the inking and the coloring. And then, we put together the pitch, and thankfully we were able to find Marcosia, sorry. And they picked it up, and we went from there.
That's awesome. So talk to me about the public domain, because I hear that as a thing that's like talked about a lot, and people are like, oh, like Batman's coming up in public domain, Superman, like even going back to the Rocket Man and Rocket Girl and all of those like older characters. How does that even work to begin to like craft a new story for those characters?
Yeah, so for Rocket Man and Rocket Girl, what we borrowed actually wasn't that much. So I only read like there isn't that much Rocket Man and Rocket Girl out there. I just read a few pages, got the idea of them, and I just loved the designs. It's sort of like Rocketeer sort of styles. So I just like the idea of it, and then the little short 7 pages that came up with it from there. I just really liked that, so it was a good launching point. And then the tricky thing is that we left the public domain so much in the story. Like all that we really took is that there's a married jetpack couple, and one of them's name is Rocket Man, and I think I took his real name too, Cal Martin. But other than that, pretty much everything is new. So it gets kind of tricky explaining that, but yeah, it's all pretty much new from there.
And so because they're public domain, do you like, I guess you don't have to ask somebody like, hey, can I use this character name?
Yeah, so
No,
public
you can
domain.
write a Sherlock Holmes story if you want. Sorry, Amal, but yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes is public domain. You can write a Sherlock Holmes story as long as it's based on that original literature. And you don't use any of the newer, like you can't use Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock Holmes movie.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, with Guy Ritchie and Jude Law. Yep.
And that's why you have so many different versions of Sherlock Holmes, of Dracula, of Frankenstein, Winnie the Pooh now, right?
Yeah.
So all those are public domain characters, and people can make their own versions of them based on the original literature. That's now public domain. So when they talk about Batman and Superman coming up, all it's going to be public domain because there'll be legal battles of them trying to maintain it and delaying it as much as they can, just like Mickey Mouse and all that. Yeah. But it'll only be that first issue, and and the versions in that first issue you're allowed to use. Like I don't think the Batcave. I don't even know if Batcave was around then or like that, like for Batman, for example. But yeah, I've never read the original Batman, so I don't know what to expect.
I haven't either.
There was a whole thing with Mickey Mouse's gloves. I think like he didn't have the steamroller or steam whatever his name.
Steamboat Willie, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Steamboat Willie. Yeah. So you can't use Mickey Mouse, and I think he wasn't wearing gloves, and people are messing that up and probably going to get sued.
Awesome. Yeah, because I love that. And one of the things that I mentioned in the review that I did, shameless plug, is you included some of the public domain, like you had one of the pages of Rocket Man in the back of Jane Jett, which I just thought was really neat to say, like, hey, yeah, we're utilizing public domain characters, and also like here's the original source material. I just thought that was really super nice. And then also like including all of the historical notes that you had that you then wove into the story, just ended up being like a really fun, like almost appendix at the end of the book to then be able to dig in to see like all of this extra work that you did, and then how you wove it in, like even to the medicine that they were taking, not just like major events that were happening like the atom bomb and Operation Paperclip, but like all of these smaller little subtles too were super cool. So I really appreciated that you included that, because then for me, who I just need to know everything about everything all the time, it was fun for me to look into it and read it and check it out for myself. So
yeah, that was all Amal. That was good. That was great.
Thank you.
Everybody seems to really love that.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I mean, so the historical stuff originally was actually Paul, the Project Paperclip. I had no idea what that was. So Paul told me about that while we're on like page 10 or something. And so I learned about that. I think you told me about a couple other things too. And then while researching that, I found out about a bunch of other stuff. And then we ended up working all that into it. And yeah, I'm glad I included the historical page. I think that is cool. And I think it's important for the back matter to like not be essential, not essential reading, but just kind of add to it if you do read it. So yeah, people seem to like it. So I think it's good we included that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
So
nice to learn something every once in a while, I guess.
If you have to.
right.
In a fun
So
way.
so tell me about Jane Jett. Like how did you decide to go with Rocket Man? Like was that always a public domain character that you were aware of that you wanted to involve?
Yeah, so I was literally scrolling through lists, and then I saw Rocket Man, Rocket Girl, and those first like 6 pages were immediate. So I wrote those right away. And then yeah, really there was no other reason besides looks cool, and I had that launching point. And then from there, the rest of the story is all just trying to tell a fun, interesting story with some, real interesting stuff from real life, and just keeping it fast paced and like sort of action packed fight scenes and not too much. What do you call it?
Sitting around talking.
Yeah, sitting around talking. I can't think of the word right now, but yeah.
That's awesome. So one of the things that you included, and I'm curious to see where it came from, whether it was you, Paul, or you, Amal, was the like character title cards of like once they get introduced and they've got this great like opening historic pose and like that wonderful splash page and they've got the name of them like nice and bold. Whose idea was that? Because
Like them all showing off his lettering skill.
I love those.
Yeah. So I actually have to dispute Paul because he did the first one, the Rocket Man, on the first page.
Oh yeah.
Which wasn't in the script or anything. He added that in. So I was like, that's really cool. Can you do that for Jane Jett also on page 7?
I think I looked at the public domain Rocket Man just a little bit to get that.
Oh,
I think,
okay.
I think it's arcs, and I kind of
It does. And it has like
look at
motion lines a little bit.
Yeah, motion lines going up. So try to
Yeah,
keep
so
close to that.
he did those first 2, and then he was like, I don't like doing this. So then I thought it was just really cool. So I decided to do all the rest. And I'm a letterer and I design logos all day. So it just kind of made sense. The tricky part was I was trying to match Paul's for those first 2. And I just couldn't. I don't think anybody will ever notice, but they are pretty digital, those later ones.
Okay.
But yeah, I think I'm the only one who will ever notice that, or maybe Paul. But yeah, I think that was a nice little touch we were able to build in.
So was it challenging then for you, Paul, to design these new characters that fit the feel of the public domain characters?
Well, I wouldn't say challenge. I think it was fun. I thought I had fun because the only thing I want to look at the book while I talk, but I'm going to grab it quickly if I can.
Yeah, do it.
Sorry.
No worries.
So yeah. So looking at the public domain characters in it, I wanted to change that a bit. I was like, oh, I don't know. I was thinking, so they used to be in World War II. Maybe they used to originally be some kind of pilots or something, or part of an air crew or something like that. So my dad, he was actually in World War II. I was born late. I was a late baby. He was 56 years old when I was born.
Okay.
And he was in World War II. He was a belly gunner on a B-24 bomber. So I've got some old photos of him, with his flight crew and all that. And I kind of, look at the flight jacket. And I was like, oh, you get leather, you got the fur. I was like, okay, I want to keep that. I want to have that in there a little bit. And then I looked at some, like the cap they wear and then the goggles, threw that on it. And we kind of went from there for the design for Rocket Man and Rocket Girl's initial design. Everybody else is just kind of doodling around in the sketchbook. And Amal said this guy with a fist. I wanted to make it real big, goofy looking. It was probably going to be too big. That's good. But yeah, no, it was fun. It was fun. I wanted to have everybody with, it's a big deal to have a good silhouette on a character, right?
Yeah.
So I kept that in mind. I wanted to have things like hoses or something coming out of like a fist of peace. So you got that, so you've got, everybody's got a different unique silhouette. Even the Nazi scientist has that weird hair, and it's like you can tell it's him, even though he's in silhouette. So that was the main thing I like to do with my characters is the silhouette.
Yeah, I love your attention, because it's not the first time I've heard that from an artist, of like the silhouettes have to matter and like be unique. And I think having fun with like the shape of a character probably has to be like really enjoyable then to see everything come together. Do you start with like thinking silhouette in mind as you're designing them, or does that just kind of happen?
Yeah, I do. With our we're coming out with a new character, and we're like, okay, I want
to
silhouette. And then, but when you look at classic characters, look at Wolverine. I mean, all you got to do is see a silhouette, and you see the mask, and you see the shoulders pop. You know, you see everything. Like Wolverine, Batman, of course.
Yeah.
You know, even Spider-Man, even though he doesn't have anything protruding from him, you'll see the webbing or you'll see his pose, and that's still part of his silhouette. You know.
Yep.
That's what makes good characters. You can always tell who they are just from silhouettes.
Yep. Yeah, and as somebody that I gravitate towards comics because the images help me keep who is who as I'm reading it, the silhouettes definitely help. Because if I had everybody that was just like average male height of like 5'10", average build, and like, oh, this guy's got brown hair and this one has red hair, they're the same person to me. It doesn't matter, just based on the different hair colors. So and I mean, like you said, they've got really fun, each character having their own, like the Sword of Justice has this giant sword, and the Fist of Peace has that oversized fit. Like everything is just super fun. What's it? Cannons of Courage. Come on, the alliterations are amazing. I'm such a sucker for an alliterative name. And maybe it's because I grew up reading the X-Men and reading, you know, Spider-Man and all of that, you know, the Stan Lee, Reed Richards and all of those just got stuck. Jane Jet. Like it works. It's way better than Rocket Girl. Because Rocket Girl sounds like she belongs on the Rocket Power show that used to be on Nickelodeon like back in the 90s. And that's definitely not the place for it here.
Yep, that's them all again, coming up with the cool names.
It is tricky because some people, some reviews have said they were too cheesy. I'm like, I don't know about that. I like it.
I
like a little bit of cheese.
Cheesiness of it. I like. I think it's supposed to be like, you know, this organization that just is full of themselves, and it's like, you know, that sort of thing. You know, I mean, we can name our characters whatever we want, and people just be like, "Ooh, look," you know, and nobody really knows about them.
Yeah. So was that like, how much of the creation of this story, Amal, was that primarily like you had the story and then you said, hey, cool, Paul, you've got like really great art, here's my story, here's all the stuff? Like how much of that was like one-to-one versus like Paul saying, can we like add this, or like how did that back and forth of creating this first story come, like how did that happen?
Yeah, so it was actually very much the latter. It was all, we sort of made it all concurrently, if that makes sense. Like pencils were being done while scripting the next 5 pages, while Juliana was coloring and someone else is inking. So it was all sort of going at the same time. So literally, like each 5 pages affect the next 5 pages. So like Fist of Peace, for example, I was originally thinking it was just going to be like a Black Panther sort of design, is what I put in the script. And then Paul designed him, and that was awesome. So that affected literally the next 3 pages. Like the fight scene is fully based off that. Yeah. So everything was constantly changing as it was going. I just had like a rough idea of where I was going. And then even to the point where, you know, Paul and I would discuss like the next few pages, and Paul would be like, this, you know, this would be better. Or what if this character says something like this? And I'd be like, what'd you say? What was it exactly? Can you repeat that word for word?
You were saying?
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of that. And then, yeah, so like the design, the characters, the setting of like every page affects the next page. So yeah, it would have been a completely different story if I just wrote it from, I mean, Paul, I don't know if you remember the pitch I originally wrote. It was completely different. So Marcosia doesn't care about that, thankfully. But
Oh, you mean with the
this is
multiple
way
books?
better. Yeah, I had
Yeah.
written out, characters and 6 issues, and
Because we originally wanted to do 6 issues, 6 smaller issues.
yeah,
And then Marco, you said wanted just one book.
yeah, they wanted they only print longer books, so we could either do individual issues leading to a bigger book, but we both wanted, we wanted it to be printed, so
Yeah.
We went straight for it. So they print a minimum of 44. We went with 50, and I think it worked out well though, because we were able to tell a full story in that first book.
That's interesting that they were the ones that said no, we want a longer form story. Was that a challenge for you to come up with like the longer format, or did you kind of already have that planned out of like where you were going to go?
Yeah, so that's actually why I scrapped. So originally I had 6 issues planned, which we could have done and then printed 6, but that would have been so many pages to do without putting anything out. So we were thinking around 44 pages, which would be the first 2 issues, but that was not satisfying of a conclusion at all, very much in the middle of the story.
Yeah.
So that's why I completely scrapped it. Just started from scratch pretty much. Some of the character names, stuff like that, but other than that, it's all pretty much gone. So yeah, the purpose was to make sure we told a full story in those 50 pages, lots of action and not too much of the word I can't remember. It's crazy.
The filler character building, like the slower stuff.
Yeah, no filler and no in the beginning of the book when they explain everything to you.
Exposition.
Exposition.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. There it is.
Yeah, no exposition dump. We just go right into it, and
no exposition dump.
We count on the reader to be smart enough to sort of figure it out along the way.
Use your imagination a bit.
Yeah.
We were talking the other day or emailing. It's kind of like you start off with this one character and you zoom out slowly to the world around it, and then you kind of learn more as the story goes on. And we're kind of still at the zooming out stage because this is about her, and then next time we'll zoom out a little bit more.
Yeah. So we were counting the characters. We have like 7 now, and they're all, we love them all, and they all have a lot we like about them. And then we can expand out. And I forgot what I was saying. Sorry, sleepy.
That's quite all right. No, that's quite all right. I hope I said the neighbor, Tomi.
Mm-hmm.
She might be my favorite. Like I didn't expect to like her as much as I did. By the end of the book, I was just like, I was cheering for her. I was rooting for her. And I love when she reappears, because I don't want to give too much of the content story away. But when she reappears to help Jane Jett, that even the car that she's driving gets a little title of the chariot. I just the second time that I read through it, I just giggled uncontrollably when I realized even the car got a title.
I was thinking for a long time whether to go huge with that. I think I even designed some stuff and then scrapped. I was like, this is too much. Let's bring it down a notch.
Yeah, I'm such a nerd for I love lettering with me. I get into these hyper focus tunnels of just I want to learn everything about this one hyper specific thing, and comic book lettering has been my most recent thing, where I bought the lettering book and it's over here on the shelf. And I've talked to some guests who have been on about lettering. The entire interview is just me asking them questions about lettering. And I'm sure they were like, come on, dude, talk about something else. But I'm like, no, I just need to know. And so even with the scene where Jane Jett shoots the flashbang, just even that where it has the flash and then the bang really big, that was another moment where I was just like, man, that's so well done, because that's what it's called, and that's what it just
oh, you caught it.
Yeah. It just
I wasn't sure if anyone's gonna catch it.
So just to gush on the lettering for just I just really a buddy of mine that I went to college with that I've reconnected with through social media. And then now he's the editor for one of the smaller publications here, or comic publishers in the States. And I was talking to him at a convention, and he was like, yeah, lettering, when it's done well, you really don't notice it. When it's not done well, you notice it immediately. And so like that tuned my antenna up to like pay attention to lettering, because I'd never thought of it as its own like art form, really. And so I'm curious, as both the letterer and then Paul as the artist, like how do you like, are you thinking about the lettering as you're designing the page or as you're talking through the script? Or is that like we know we need to do lettering and we can just like fit it around what we end up with on the page?
Is that for me? Or
I'll let you take it, Paul, for the art.
Hey. Yeah, well, I'd leave room. He'll give you a script. So this is like the page, and these are how many panels we're thinking, and this is what's being said on the panels. So at least I have an idea of how much room I need to leave. Sometimes I might have gotten carried away or forgotten, but
No.
I think we figure it out pretty well.
I've lettered
And I
books
mean,
where-
it's not that. I don't think it's that hard to design a panel to leave some room. You just don't want to fill it. Space
so
too
you
much.
think. So you think.
I was gonna
I've worked
say,
on
you might
lots of
think
books.
not.
Yeah. I worked on like so many books.
I think the only
where
time you'd
there's
struggle
not
is like
enough
with
room.
an extreme close up or something, and it's like, okay, but yeah.
Yeah. That's always not always the case. There's often not enough room, or the artist just didn't think about it, or the first person speaking is on the right rather than the left.
Rule of thirds.
Rule of thirds.
Yeah,
Rule
lots
of
of
thirds.
issues like that. So yeah, I mean, because I'm a letterer, I'm thinking about it the whole time,
Okay.
nonstop. So, and it was really cool being able to letter it as the writer, because there's like the sound effects were all afterwards. And as I was lettering it, the book completely changed. The dialogue completely changed. Like the last fight scene didn't have any narration or anything like that. I was like, oh, it'd be cool if it's silent. And then while reading it, just felt too quiet, too like you just blow through it. So yeah, it was really nice being able to change everything as I lettered it. And then since we were working on it concurrently, I would go back and add something like, oh, this will make sense later. Yeah, add some more context. So yeah, the lettering is always there. And then especially with the title cards, and then thinking about the characters and when we're going to add that splash, that was cool. Yeah, I'm biased, of course, but
Sure.
yeah, for me, lettering is is always there.
That's cool. Yeah, I that's just one of those, like, how does that process work, is wearing multiple hats at the same time. And then especially like scripting as the pages are being like drawn and inked and all that stuff too. That just that like, I would imagine that allows you to be very nimble with like, ooh, you know what? Maybe we should tweak this next scene for pacing or for what have you. Because they're really, I mean, I know you've mentioned it, but there's really not much time to catch your breath. We get thrown right into the story, and immediately she's off and flying, and then like fighting and catching the breath. And then we have, she's fighting again. And then there's this other new character, and there's a Nazi doctor. And then like there's so many things that just come at you. And for me, that's just the speed of my brain anyway. Cause again, ADHD, like it just happens. But I love that it's just very fast paced. Do you have plans? Like, I know this is book 1 and you definitely left us on a cliffhanger. Are there is book 2 being worked on? Can you talk about book 2?
Yeah. So, I very much know where I want book 2 to go. And I think the pace is going to sort of stay the same all throughout, is the goal. Maybe slow down a little bit here and there, but not too much. Definitely not too much. Yeah, that's when I stop reading a book, is when I get the exposition done.
But the second one can be called book 2. Catch your breath.
Yeah. Jane Jett takes a breath.
Yeah. So so I definitely have things in mind. Paul and I have discussed things where we want to go, what happens to Jane Jet along the way. But we do need the first one to be successful to be able to make it happen. So we'll see. And in the meantime, we're working concurrently on a different project, which will probably flip flop back and forth if we can, if we're able to keep both going. And the next one's going to be sort of really lean, mean, 22 pages, black and white, get it done out there, sort of deal. And Jane Jet's sort of this like massive polished thing. So yeah, hopefully we get to do both and keep both going, but we'll have to see.
But with the pacing, I like how it's fast paced. I like hearing people, oh yeah, I sat down and read it one setting and that one sitting and that was it. And I think that's a good thing. Like, I get some of these books, I'll sit down and read it, and then I trail off, put it down, and I don't get back to it for days, sometimes weeks. Graphic novels. But I like hearing that people, I sat down and went through it, and I was in it from start to finish. And that's great. That's a good thing, I think.
Yep. Yeah, very much. That was very much the goal. So I'm really happy that it turned out that way.
Yeah, and I love, I'm a sucker. Again, I get really nerdy about weird things. I am such a sucker for the 50 to 70 page, just oversized one shot, square bound. Those are the types of books when I go to visit local comic shops, if I'm on vacation or out of town or whatever, and I go to a shop that's not my normal local comic shop. Those are the books that I'm looking for, because I love being able to sit down. A graphic novel can be a commitment. And I like having the giant collected volumes when I can afford them on my shelf, because they look great on my shelf. But logistically reading those is a pain in the ass. I would much rather have just a 60 page, because one issue I can crank through in 6 minutes sometimes. And that, for me, if I'm paying $5 for 6 minutes, I would much rather get a one-shot story. It's complete. I don't have to worry about waiting 30 days, and I have a terrible memory, and I read a bunch of books all at the same time. So between August and September, if I got to wait that month before the next issue comes out to finish the story that I started last month, but I also read 7 other stories last month that are being continued. I would much rather have that one volume that's oversized, you can tell more story, you can flesh out the characters more. And so then it's easier for me to remember. And it's a good, I can sit down in a half an hour, read one of those books. And that's my ideal comic format at this point. So I love that it's a longer format, because we got to see so many of these interesting characters get introduced. We had this overarching story. We had the flashbacks. We had the villain kind of get revealed. We end on the cliffhanger. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of character building and world building that you crammed into this story. And there's just no way that would have worked in a 22 page format. So I'm excited that the publisher is the one that said, no, we focus on longer books. And I'm definitely going to look at their website so that I can see what else I can pick up, because that's my thing. I love that. I love that format.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was completely just fortuitous, but I really, really like the format too. I think it works super well, because the 20 pages, it's really hard to say something meaningful, to get into the story.
Yeah.
I don't think it will be for us for the next one. I haven't planned out, but it can be, and yeah, absolutely. It's just a little too short or a little too long. It's kind of what you get out there. So I think it's kind of nice. And yeah, we tell a full story, and then the next one will be another full story, and the next one will be another full story. And I know there are some other books going that route too, 60 pages ish, 60, 70, 80. So yeah, I think it's cool. I hope it grows.
Yeah. I personally would love to see way more publishers and way more creators take that approach. But that's just for me. That's only for me, because honestly, I'm out of space in my office here, and I already have 12 full long boxes. I can't just keep putting more in there, and I have all my trades downstairs, and my wife is just like, seriously, babe, you keep buying we don't have space anymore.
You can't stop. That's
Right.
not how it works.
I'm like, you don't understand. I have to have these.
I know I haven't read half of them, but I need more.
I've read at least half of them. Thank you very much.
That's good.
I just look at the pictures mostly.
So as creators, when you're reading other books, are you like, I guess I got to set this up because it's not going to make sense if I just ask the question. So my degree is in broadcasting, and I studied media aesthetics. I studied the rule of thirds and first person versus third person narrative and all of these big stupid words that college professors use. But when I go and watch movies, I watch them from a like technical mindset of I've made movies, and so I can't turn that off when I'm watching movies, because then I'm seeing shots. I'm like, oh man, that's such a good jib shot. And my wife is like, shut up, we're in the theater. And so like as comic writers and artists and creators and are you able to turn that off and just approach books as a fan, or is that always kind of going and like in the back of your mind?
I'll let you go first, Paul.
I want to turn it off. That's my thing. I want to be lost. I want to escape reality. When I watch a movie, or when I read a book or something, I just want to sit there and I want to be taken out and just enjoy the ride. And that's what I want. If I have to be taken out, I do. Sometimes I'll go back and look at, oh, wow, that's a really well-framed shot. I could use that one day, something like that. Or I'll pause it, take a photo. I love that shot. I've got one that I want to use. I still haven't used it yet. And it's from the first Highlander movie. Really cool shot. Like it's in the car park and it's like in between two cars, but it's like almost like a worm's eye view. Look at it. It's great.
Okay.
Really cool. But it's nice. It's lovely. But yeah, things like that. Sometimes I'll look at it and I'll notice things, but I try not to. I really want to be lost in the story. I want to be taken out of reality, because reality's reality. That's why we read these books, why we watch these movies, be taken out of reality.
Yep.
So that's my goal. My personal goal. That's why I like doing it. Yeah.
But yeah, I really struggle with that, especially with the lettering. Lettering just drives me insane. Just so many books now. It's just I struggle. And I get angry a lot at the lettering. So yeah, it definitely is a struggle. And then, but with learning like inking and more about art from Paul and just being involved with it, and I inked some pages. For those, it's really cool because I could just appreciate it when I notice more now, and otherwise I just shut it off, which is very cool. But I think bad writing will drive anybody crazy, whether you're a writer or not. But yeah, lettering is a real struggle. They've even gone back and like read old books that I used to love, and it's like I gotta knock that down a couple notches now. But not to be a snob, it just there's good lettering and there's bad lettering.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, great question. I think it's probably something most creators struggle with. I heard an editor from Marvel doing a different interview, and he was saying the same thing. He's like, he's been doing it for so long, and it's just like he can't stop looking for who's good and who's not good, and who he needs to be contacting and whatnot. So yeah, you lose a little bit, but you gain a lot of appreciation. So
yeah,
balances.
Yeah, and I always so I've been married just about 10 years, and when we were still even dating, I would just I can't help it, and I just I love horror movies, and so anytime we would go to a horror movie in the theater and they do a really unique shot or something like that, it's like, oh, that's so it has nothing to do with the gory murder or whatever just happened. It's completely the technical aspect of how they shot it to make it an even bigger response. And then so now that I'm getting even further into comic books and reviews and reading different comics and talking to people all the time about the craft, and so now I'm even starting to notice page turns matter, and like what's on the next page for pacing, and like, you know, composition of the whole page and leading the eye and all of those things. I'm now noticing that in all of the books that I'm reading, and I just can't, like, as somebody that's not, I don't create the comics, I just love comics. I can't turn it off now that I know that it's a thing. And once my buddy said, like, yeah, no, good lettering, like, you don't even notice. Now I'm going out of my way to notice it, to then think, like, is this good lettering or is this bad lettering? Like, did I notice it because I'm interested in learning more about lettering? And so, like, that's where it's like, it's just some, it's always, like you said, Paul, like, I want to let all of it go and just enjoy it as a fan, and not always be critically thinking about, like, ooh, that's a very interesting use of perspective on this panel 3 on page 17 they used.
I mean, that's still a good thing, I think. You're still analyzing just to try and understand something better or get better at it yourself. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. So have you found that you, like, do you play with that at all to kind of force perspective or force the reader to
lead the eye around the page? Yeah, I pay attention to that. Yes, I do. Definitely.
That seems hard to me as the reader to, like, because I couldn't draw my way out of a cardboard box. So it just like, that blows my mind that you can be thinking about how you're leading the eye around a page, because I guess part of me is just a novice comic reader. I'm like, you just read left to right, top to bottom, and that's the page.
Well, that's our natural way. Yeah, sure. But I guess on the more, not a confusing page, but, you know, a page that has a lot more going on, you want to kind of guide it around. Or if it's like an open paneled thing, you want to show them which one, hey, this one's coming next. So you kind of, I don't know, you can cheat it and just point a silly little element in that direction or whatever, and it works. You know, that's all you gotta do. It's not a lot. It's not like you have to compose the entire thing just to have, hey, look down here next. But, you know, it does help if maybe something is kind of just one line is kind of going that way, and your eye will finish and then go back across the other side. And it's cool. Like, I never paid attention to that a few years ago, because this is all new to me as well. But, you know, I've always liked looking at the comic books, never really studying them or anything like that. But, you know, like I said, ever since I got into YouTube and learning about it, I was like, okay, well, that makes sense, and that's cool. Try and do this. Did a couple little courses that people put out and things like that. So pay attention when the artists talk. Right. No, I just okay.
While they're drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Paul's extremely good at that, because when I'm lettering, you're like fighting it if it's done poorly. You know, you're like, no, look over here, and I have to do weird things to get it to work, which I did not have to do with this at all. It's really nice. But yeah, it really is just the left to right, top to bottom, but getting the everything to work in that order is just really tricky, because we're not doing just one long horizontal,
right,
you know, format, which would be kind of cool. I don't know why we haven't done that.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a little panel break that leads to the next one down or something. Just a little, or, you know what I mean? If there's like multiple ones, look at this one over here next, because it's the next one.
Right.
It just popped out into it bleeds over into the next one almost. It's like, yeah, it's little tricks.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Simple stuff.
Yeah. I like it. Little trick. Don't overthink is what I'm hearing.
Little thing. Just a little thing. Yeah.
Perfect.
No, it's fun. It's great. I can't wait for the next one.
Listen, neither can I. I need to know what happens. Okay. You can't just give me the cliffhanger that you did and then just like not satisfy and close that circle. Because I definitely left like, oh no. And that's all I can say. Yeah, that's all I can say. So instead, I'll just hard pivot, and we're going to go into the historical references that were made in this book. Is that out of, like, we're using public domain, so let's also, like, use a lot of history as well, or was it just like, is the history that you're referencing like Project Paperclip, like were those pre-existing interests before incorporating them?
So there's a few things that I was already interested in that I just don't think people talk about enough, which I worked into it slightly. And then once Paul told me about Project Paperclip and it went on that whole tangent, I was like, everybody needs to know about this. Why doesn't everybody know about this? How am I 30, whatever, and I don't know about this? So then it became like, I need to build this into it in some way so people know. And then there's one thing I learned about near the end of the book. I still put in the historical thing because I'm like, it's going to be in the next book. But the unit 731, I forget what it is, but
Yeah.
it was extremely dark, and we don't know about that. And so that will be in the next one. But yeah, the goal is just to shed some light on some really interesting things that are not generally known about.
It's cool.
Forgotten history. Forgotten history.
Yeah. That's a whole rabbit hole that we could end up falling into.
Oh yeah.
So with the, like, I love that everything it feels like a period piece. When looking at it as I kind of skimmed through the whole book earlier today to prep for this, because I'm a professional and I do
Aren't we all?
prepping and research. If I say it enough times, I feel like it'll eventually be true, and maybe I'll get over the imposter syndrome that I have all the time. It hasn't worked yet. But it feels very much like a period piece. And so I'm curious, are you like, is living in it as a period piece for this story, like, is that kind of the final thing? Like, is that kind of the intention? Or are there elements that you're like, well, I want to, as I look at my career 10 years from now, I want to be able to say, yeah, I did a period piece, I did a modern thing, I did a superhero thing, I did a mystery thing. Like, is that, and that's really for both of you, of just like, am I overthinking it? Because I'm an overthinker. Or was it just like, no, this is a really cool story, let's tell it, let's lean into it, like even the cheesy factor like we talked about, like, is it just kind of happenstance, or was it super intentional?
So a little bit of both, I would say, with just the characters and it sounding cool to set a story after that time. That's kind of how it started. But then I just really love like different parts of 50s aesthetic and retro futurism, which Paul taught me a bit about. So all that just looks really cool. And then we have the intention, if we're able to continue, it'll keep going until, future decades, and the story will keep going, which is hard to do when you're telling a modern story, because then you're predicting what the next 10 years are going to look like. But yeah, if we get to keep going on this, we can keep going as time progresses and uncovering different unusual things from each decade, exploring, the characters when they're older and kids and whatever. So yeah, that's part of it. That's cool. And then, yeah, I think part of it is just liking, it's hard, like when there's like an iPhone or something in this book, it really takes me out of it. So I think part of it's that too, is just kind of like stepping away a little bit from where we are now to like slightly more simple times. Feels stupid to say, but
it's true though. Yeah.
And then for our next book too, we're talking about doing the 20s now, which is cool. Gonna be interesting. But it's just, things look very cool
with that one. We can do multiple environments and multiple eras as well.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Without trying to tell the story of that one, but the Jane Jet can still, like you said, it can go. We can keep it going as long as we want, or whatever, because there's plans for way in the future if we wanted to go into the future. But yeah,
that's cool.
So, it's all spitballing still. Most of
it.
There's a general direction of where we wanted to go in the next one, where Amal's like, yep, this one. And then after that, it's like spitballing.
That's cool.
I threw a real jump the shark thing in there on page in German. So if anybody catches that, there's plans to jump the shark if we get to go long enough. Yeah, just need to translate the German there.
That's awesome. So I know you've mentioned a couple times, like, if the book is successful, how does this book, like, how is success measured? How can people find it? Because I think everybody needs to buy this book, because I love this book. I really love this story. And it's not just lip service because you're on my show. Like, I had so much fun reading this book, and the characters are great and the action's incredible. And so, like, how does anybody that's watching and or listening to this, like, how do they find and order a copy for themselves? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all. Really appreciate it. So the nice thing about Marcosia is that their books are like everywhere, which is very cool. So Amazon, Walmart, Bookshop, Barnes and Noble, Waterstones, whatever that is, something in the UK. Yeah, it's pretty much everywhere, which is cool. You just have to Google Jane Jett Book 1 Nuclear Shadows. Just Jane Jett doesn't work that well because you get Joan.
Yeah, Joan Jett keeps coming up for me.
Yeah, you get Joan Jett.
Crazy, yeah. I had the same experience. It's the only reason I had Joan Jett.
I'm not really that into music, and I didn't know who Joan Jett was, to be honest. So I can't really.
I don't either. People keep saying like, "Oh, this was intentionally similar," and I'm like, "Yeah, sure."
It sounded like a superhero name, like Clark Kent or Bruce Banner, Peter Parker, Jane Jett. It just goes well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, yeah. There's multiple connections people have drawn.
Or Jane Jetson. I've heard people say that as well. Oh yeah, there's Jane Jetson.
Yeah, of the Jetsons. That's what I was thinking of when I was like, can we use Jane Jett? It sounds really similar to something. And I was like Googling as much as I could. I was like, I guess it's original.
As long as we don't use a theme song, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, I think we're fine.
Yeah. Don't name anybody George. There can't be a George.
Yeah. But yeah, it's out there pretty much everywhere. You could go to marcosia.com to find it, and all the links, or you could just go to Amazon and search it, or any of those other places.
Amazon.
Great. So it sounds like I should probably make sure that Marcosia is in the video description, so that it's super easy for anybody after doing this live that are catching it on the replay, which is honestly where like 95% of my views come from, is after the fact. But yeah, so I'll make sure to get that link from you, and it'll be in the description. So all you got to do is tap expand and tap the link, and then you can find it and order it for yourself. Let me check. One more thing, and this could be me just making something up. That's totally possible. But in the very first scene, when Jane Jett is facing off with her husband, and she says, "You're a rocket man," and then lets go of the rocket and shoots him out of the house. I immediately thought of one of my all-time favorite movies, The Rock, with Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage. Are you familiar with the movie?
I saw it when I was like 10.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. All right. Because there's a scene. You're all bashed. Because there's a scene where Nic Cage is like, they're trying to disarm the rockets before they explode over San Francisco and kill everybody. And he tells the bad guy, like, "Are you an Elton John fan?" And I have a terrible Nic Cage impersonation, by the way. I don't think it's good at all. So I don't need the criticism. But he's like,
I'm not going to attempt it.
"Because it's you. You're the rocket man." And then he fires the rocket, and the rocket shoots him into the San Francisco Bay.
I'll have to watch that again.
Yeah.
I gotta watch it again.
Nothing is original. As hard as you try, everything's
as hard as you try. Yeah.
There's so many things where I was like, that's for sure new. And then I've been reading comics since, and I'm like, people are gonna think we swiped to this, which there's absolutely no way we did. I know Paul didn't read this book, but what are the chances? I know I didn't read it when I was coming up with this.
Right.
So at one point I was like, I'm gonna put all this out there on the internet just to tell everybody these are not swipes. But
And a lot of people
everything.
always compare it. Sorry, they always compare it to Rocketeer, which is fun because I get it's a jetpack and it's like kind of the era. But the Rocketeer, was that in between World Wars? Was that in the 30s?
Yeah. Rocketeer was like
hey, we're after
20s,
Rocketeer,
early 30s.
all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally different era.
Helmet. So,
yeah, everybody's connecting those, and I intentionally
that's
didn't.
fine. That's fine. I mean, what are you gonna do? Jetpacks were like all the rage back in the day.
Yeah, I never watched. I never watched Rocketeer. I never read the comics. Haven't listened to Joan Jett.
The movie back when I was a kid.
Yeah, but I'm like intentionally avoiding all this because I want to just keep us separate. Definitely the aesthetics. I mean, like the art, the Chris Samnee art on that Mark Waid written book. Haven't read it. Looked at the art. It's probably my background on my computer. But yeah, I intentionally sort of stayed away from all that, which makes, and now people are like asking me about the connections to Rocketeer. Jetpack looks cool.
But she grows differently because every time she beats somebody, she gets one of their items.
Yeah.
Their gear. You know, she's not just a jetpacking person by the end of the book.
Right.
She's got other stuff going on, so that's good.
And she doesn't have the crazy helmet with the fin.
It is a cool helmet, though. That Rocketeer helmet is pretty dope.
That helmet is very cool.
Yeah. I was a Rocketeer kid. My Nana took me to see it in theaters. Now I have the VHS tape in the living room, actually. So, not to brag, but it is totally different. It's a totally different era. My allergies are going crazy, so I feel like I'm crying right now.
No worries. I know the book moved.
I'm just overwhelmed with emotions right now.
We all are.
Oh man, what a mess. So that's the end of my notes here, which means there's really only like 3 things more for us to do together. When I run out of notes, I like to turn the tables over to my creators and boost whatever voice or message you want heard. So if there is anything that is on your hearts, on your minds that you want people to know, it could be about Jane Jett. It could be about helmets. It could be about anything. It is totally up to you what you want to share. So I'm going to stop talking. And Paul, I'm going to let you take it away since we gave it to Amal first.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I don't know. Go check out Jane Jett. Let us know what you think. Leave a review, please, on like YouTube or
that's
not YouTube, but Amazon or Goodreads. Yeah, we love people's opinions, good or bad, just honest. Great. So you only get better at things by learning from mistakes or whatever. But so far, they've all been pretty good. We've got a couple criticisms on, not having enough world building and things like that, but that wasn't the intention of the first book anyway.
Yeah, that was intentional. Yeah.
We'll get there.
But it doesn't have to be in the first issue.
Yeah. So we didn't want exposition. We were like, no, let's just do flashbacks. We'll do the flashback. Well, yeah, okay, that's cool. We'll do that.
And making the flashbacks look like older photographs, even with the rounded corners. I have some pictures that were my Nana's that have those same rounded edges, and they're yellow. Like
my idea.
I love it. Yeah,
that was awful. Yeah, no, that was cool. Yeah, I did like that one. I pat myself in the back for that one. Yeah, that's good. But yeah. Oh no, look, check out Jane Jett. People seem to like it a lot.
And leave reviews. Great.
And leave reviews.
What you got, Amal?
Yeah, so just Jane Jett. I got my copy too, like Paul. Oh no, I'm blurring it.
Oh no,
that's useless. God damn it. But yeah, I mean that's the most important thing right now. Reviews. I mean, if somebody's willing to leave a review, ask me and I might send you a free copy. We need reviews more than anything, and we need people to buy the book, of course. So that's the big one, and then we'll have another book coming out, which will be great. So if people want to follow us on Instagram, that would be cool. I'm at Comics by Amal Desai. And Paul, what are you again?
Oh, mine's hard to say. Paul Essenson art, but with underscores in between. So, but yeah.
And those are for sure linked in the description.
But one thing I want to say about the actual physical book is that the paper and everything in it, it's on matte.
Ooh.
So the PDF, if you guys have seen the PDF, it's almost not over vibrant, but the matte paper puts it into that era so much cooler. It just works so much better.
Yeah, I was like, super happy with that.
I was like, oh, this is good. This is really good.
Yeah. That was just pure luck, not planned, and it's awesome.
Was that a Marcosia decision with the matte paper?
I think that's just the paper they use, and it works super well for this book.
So hey, kudos to them. That was a great decision.
Yeah, you could read it under light without it, blaring in the eyes.
Reflection. It's got that nice, cool, almost faded kind of look to it. It looks really good. Lends itself to the era that it's set in. It's really cool.
Yep, and you'll be getting a copy tomorrow, Chris.
Oh,
yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I was just about to say, like, I'll go.
Where's my copy?
I
wish I could look at her
and lift it up here, but that's all right.
Yeah.
Just broke my headphones. That's the beauty of doing a live show, is you never know when I'm gonna unplug my headphones.
You normally have people listen to music during their creative process. Amal, do you listen to music when you do your?
Look at you.
No, I purposefully don't listen to music. If I music like too inspirational, I don't even like music anymore. Honestly, it's weird. Too many emotions. I don't want those.
I don't either. I have
like it all.
Honestly, like I barely listen to music now. Like if I'm in the car, maybe I'll listen to podcasts, stories more. I just too much. I don't need all that. I don't need to feel that much. I'm dead inside. I want to stay that way.
Laughing on the outside, crying.
Just crying and falling apart on the inside. Paul, do you listen to music while you're
not creating? Usually I'll watch YouTube of either a podcast about comics or art on something. But when I do, sometimes I'll just put on like a theme to like Terminator 2 theme. And then whatever Spotify wants to go from there, it goes. And you can I like doing that. That's fun. Yeah. You got to guess the movie, type of thing. But
soundtracks
that's what I'm on
hard.
like a long, I know I'm going to be sitting there for a long time doing something. I just need to get it done. I'll put the music on. But it's fun.
That's awesome. The like times that I feel focused and motivated enough to like actually sit down and write, I either don't listen to any music at all, and I just put on these giant headphones because they like silence everything else. Because there's a local coffee shop here in my town, and I like to seclude myself in their upstairs like back room so that nobody can bother me. And I put these on, and sometimes I'll just sit there with these on to be in like dead silent so that I can sit and write. Or I have to listen to instrumental. Like I can't listen to anything with words, because if I'm writing and then a song comes, especially a song comes on that I'm familiar with, I'll start singing it, and then suddenly I've typed out the entire chorus in the middle of whatever I'm writing. I'm like, that's not that's not the right thing.
Yeah.
But,
I like the instrumental stuff. That's why I go through like a movie theme type of stuff. You get Indiana Jones coming through, you get Superman, all this good stuff.
Yeah.
Put you right in there.
Good. When I'm lettering, I listen to podcasts and like pause it every 15 seconds because it's too distracting. It's like constantly, just like.
Yeah.
Okay,
when I'm watching YouTube videos or podcasts on YouTube and things like that, I'm like, always drawing. Oh, this is interesting. There's a link. Okay.
Just make sure you lift your hand first, otherwise you'll like follow the
trail off. Oh, there's a leading line.
That's awesome.
Not going to the next.
Right. So before I let you go, I've started taking screenshots as I'm doing the interview to use as the YouTube thumbnail, so that creators and guests can portray themselves as they want to be seen, instead of me scrubbing through the interview and then trying to find a good screen grab. So we're gonna pose, and I'm gonna take a screenshot.
I'm doing the people's eyebrow. What are you gonna do?
Oh, that's good.
Oh, I was gonna do the. That's what I do in every picture.
You can do the people's eyebrow. Let's all do the people's
We'll
eyebrow.
both do it. Okay.
Are we all doing?
Oh,
the
you can't
people's
see
eyebrow?
with my
All do the
glasses.
people's eyebrow.
My glasses
Perfect.
cover my eyebrow.
All right, here we go. We're gonna take it. We'll take a couple. Great. All right.
My glasses make it just look like I'm having trouble with it in the brain.
You can't do it.
Yeah, you're gonna have all the fans chanting at you. All right. That's everything, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. This was a lot of fun. I love hearing different creators' processes and like how they make comic books that I really enjoy. I'm a nerd for like the background stuff. So really I started the show for me, and the fact that people would tune in and check it out is just awesome. So thank you so much for hanging out with me, spending some time with me, talking about Jane Jett. I'm going to let you get back to your evening and morning. And I know that we will be in touch in the future about all things Jane Jett. Instagram is the best way to find both of you, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Cool. Great. I've already got both of you there. So, haha. All right. So yeah, if you don't, it's in the description, and then go buy Jane Jett. Because if you're not convinced yet, like, I'm going to tell you just directly, go buy Jane Jett so that we can get more from this universe, because these characters are so much fun. And it's such a really rad book to tie in all of the things that you're tying in. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing it with me, for sending me a copy. I can't wait to get it tomorrow. And then, that's going to be it. So what's a good podcast without a good tagline? Hang on. After I got logistics for both of you. So hang on after I end this.
Cool.
And then we'll talk logistics. But what's a good podcast without a good tagline? And this is mine. That's it for this interview, punks. Not good, do what's good for you, and read some indie comics. We are out of here. And